One. Yo, to the people, man. Welcome in. This Behind the Curtains with your favorite capper series. My name is Chris, or Chris B. Capping on Twitter. I handicap sports and provide free betting analysis. I'm the host of the Chris B. Capping Show on YouTube and Twitter, where I analyze sports and teach the gambling community how to be better, smarter, and more profitable long term. I'm a student of the game. I've had my successes, but I'm also pretty open-minded guy. I'm always looking to learn and as we should be, right? So I figured if I'm learning, it might as well be from some of the sharpest minds in the gambling space. I decided to reach out to some of the greatest, most successful, inspirational cappers that I've come into contact with in the gambling space, and pick their brains by conducting these interviews with them to take the audience behind the curtain to learn a little more about their favorite cappers as a capper, but also as a person. With that being said, man, I want to welcome in my guy. Welcome in the guest for today, RC, also known as YouCapper. Well, YouCapper, also known as RC. YouCapper has been he's been capping sports since 2007 and sharing his plays publicly since about 2016 back on Reddit. So people should know that, we're going back a little bit. He resides in Seattle, Washington, and specializes in handicapping a wide variety of sports, man. You name it, YouCapper caps it, man. I want, a big thank you. We're going to get into it, but a big thank you to this extraordinary guy for sharing some of his time with me today and for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in YouCapper. What's going on, my brother? What's up, RC? How you doing, bro?
Chilling, yo, man. I'm glad we're finally doing this. We've been talking for a while now, trying to get this scheduled, and I'm pretty excited to kind of tell my story. I think I mean, I said bits and pieces of my history and capping and how I got to this point. Just in random places. But yeah, this show is dope because there's some guys that you or some people, some women and some men cappers that you brought on the show before me that I never heard of really. Because us, we kind of stay in our own lane. But some of the people that I've been watching on your show, amazing stories, and hopefully I could just live up to what they did.
Bro, of course, man. I think it's so many like really good handicappers in the space, RC. It's oversaturated. Today is for the audience, today is August 17th, 2022. On August 16th, 2022, YouCapper put out a really cool quote. I think that hopefully we can get him to touch on it just a tad bit. But just going, connecting the dots. So I see what I was going to say in relation to that is that, the space it is oversaturated, right? It's like a bunch of realtors living in a city that's only 300,000 square feet. You know what I mean? Like you can't have so many people selling houses in the same city because then you have enough clientele, right? So the
Exactly.
space is becoming, oversaturated. But everybody that I bought on RC is people that I feel like genuinely like to teach people, have always been genuine with myself, and they have really good intentions. You know what I mean? Like I'm so just like you, RC. I'm real big on energy. I can pick up on it quickly, and I know that's something that we both, just want to be surrounded by positive energy, whether we're losing, whether we're winning. And we do a lot of winning, but no matter what, I think we just kind of want to be around those people. I see. So, like I said, man, and I always say this like at least one time during the show. I always say that I'm extremely thankful for your time, bro, because it's something that we can never get back. Like we can
Yeah.
lose bets. We've had days on the show. I'm on RC shows all the time. We've had days where we don't have too many days where we don't win at all, but we've had
No. Yeah.
some days where we haven't won. But we can always get that back, right? Like we can always bounce back and have a 4-1 day or a 5-0 day the next day.
Yeah.
So we can get the money back, but we can never get our time back, RC. So I'm thankful and I appreciate you for being here, man. But let's get into it, RC. Let's get into it, bro. I'm really excited for this, man.
Yes, sir.
Um, so first and foremost, RC, I want to ask you about yourself as a person, right? You're a person. You're a capper, of course, a highly successful capper. But when you're not handicapping sports, RC, when you're not, running your queries and looking at your SDQL and reading articles and checking beat writer reports for some of the sports that you're capping, what are you doing with your free time, man? Tell the people a little bit about RC, like the actual person.
Yeah, for me, man, especially nowadays since I quit my full-time job, it's really spending time with the kids. Like, after my show around like my last show, typically my show is around 11 o'clock, Pacific Standard Time, right? And then sometimes I do shows with Wager Talk or Sports Moment after that. But for like, when I'm done with the shows, I really want to spend most of my time with just my family, my kids. My boys are 8 and 6 now, right? They're growing quick. To get to this point was a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. You know what I mean? And just to become a good capper and all that stuff. So there was a lot of time, like you said, this time that we have, you can't get it back. Right now, I'm trying to make up for it. You know what I mean? I quit my job because it was taking a lot of time away from capping, and capping was taking away time from my family. For me, my goal later on, has to do with sports and capping. So, that's why I have to choose one over the other so that I can spend more time with my family. And family is always number one, and we got to do that for for the kids, especially when they're this age. This is the fun age too. When you're a dad, and the kids are like 1 or 2 years old, you can't really do nothing. They're attached to their mom, right? Now, now the kids love hanging out with you because you're the jokester dad. You're playing sports with them. You're going out, taking them to the park. This is all important stuff that you don't want to you don't want to miss out on. And for me, that's my favorite part, of being able to do this full time is to have that time with my family and my kids.
That's man, that's dope, RC. Yeah, and especially for you, man, because you have boys, right? So like,
Yeah,
even sometimes, like you hear about like the dad, the girl dads, and I know that that's a thing, but when you're a male, you need that male figure in your life to show you, you just learn so much from older role models, whether that's your father, your grandfather, whatever the case might be. So that's dope, RC, and I think it means so much to me because I grew up without my father, without having a father figure in my life. So I'm someone that's just like you, trying to start that generational, um, you know, trend of having your father. So when I'm
yeah,
not capping sports, I'm doing the same exact thing, and I think that's why we click so well, RC, because
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing the same thing, bro. Like I'm spending time. I got a 4-year-old. We're running around, like you said. We at the park. We're racing each other. Like
yeah.
we reading books, whatever the case might be, right? Like this dude is everywhere. So absolutely love that answer, RC. Love that answer. Transitioning, RC, a little bit. What about sports? Did you play any organized sports growing up? Like in high school, middle school, youth
Yeah,
league?
man. Like us and our generation here. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm older than you, but when I was growing up, we didn't have all the technology that that the kids have today. The video games, the phone, the cell phone, all that stuff. So I was always outside. I had a basketball court right in front of my house. Well, not a court, but I had a hoop there. Played basketball every single day. Growing up, ever since I was like in, I want to say kindergarten. But I didn't play organized ball until maybe fifth grade or sixth grade. And I picked it up quickly because when you play basketball by yourself, you're watching basketball as well. And we grew up with the generation of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and all those guys, right? And back then, we would go out in front of the house and emulate, Reggie Miller, Michael Jordan, Gary Payton, all these guys. Just that
AI with the
general.
crossover,
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's even after. That's towards like middle school. But
Hmm.
like we were emulating these guys. So when you go from that to organized ball, you try to do all that stuff, and that's not what it is. It's not what you. That's not what gets the wins. You know what I mean? Like you got to understand your role. You gotta be a team player, and then play to your advantages, and just off of that, you kind of you take all that stuff. I ended up playing AAU for a while, and then I played. Then I don't know if I told you this story, but like so I tried out for Franklin. I played on the freshman sophomore team, and there's guys like Aaron Brooks was on the squad. A couple of guys that made it to the NBA.
Okay, I remember
You know
Aaron
what I mean?
Brooks. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
long.
Aaron Brooks,
Yeah.
we were in the same class. So I played with him freshman sophomore year. He was already in varsity, but I was practicing with him. And then when you're like going from eighth to ninth grade, there's like a little bit of a growth spurt for some people. I'm Filipino. I'm Asian. Like I didn't grow nothing. I didn't grow. I just stayed the same height. And then so like skill wise, I was like, yeah, I'm filthy, right? Like I'm good. Because through middle school, I was hooping with everybody. Then we hit high school and everybody got this 8-inch growth spurt that I didn't get. And I was like, man, what the hell happened? So obviously I couldn't play the rest of the varsity and stuff with those guys because our school in Seattle in that area during that generation, ballers everywhere, ballers everywhere. Not just Franklin, but Rainier Beach, Garfield, like everywhere in this area. I just couldn't hang with them. They were just so athletic, a lot taller. But outside we would hoop. Like at the log cabin at Mercer Island, all these outside courts, and we would just have fun there. So basketball was mainly the sport that I played, throughout. But just hanging out with friends and stuff like that, playing football, baseball, all that. Sports was everything to us because we didn't have no technology.
Yeah, yeah. The whole saying of we outside now. RC wasn't a saying. We didn't need to say that back then because we stayed outside.
We
So
just
so
that's
yeah,
what it is. Ride
it's
our bike
outside.
until like it was dark. Like
Yeah,
we didn't have to worry about nothing. Like I don't even want my kids to be like 2 blocks down without me watching. It's different
absolutely.
nowadays.
It's totally different. RC, it's crazy, bro. Because I hear so many people that's come on the show talked about like just being outside and not outside like the term is used now, but like you said, growing up, you just stayed outside. You played sports, you rode bicycles, you did whatever with the kids in the community. You typically came home when the street lights came on, and
Yeah.
that's how it was for me too. I remember like just playing outside. We had a full court goal that we actually made ourselves, me and my cousins, my brother, and we would just play basketball like all day long, 2-on-2 full court, and we
Yeah.
would come in and we lived like where it was like red dirt, like far in the country. And we
Damn.
used to have to. My mom used to always say, "Take your shoes off at the door and go straight to the bathroom, like get straight in the shower. Like don't touch anything. You can't sit on my sofa, any of that until you go take a shower." So nah,
Yeah.
those are true stories, RC, for sure, bro. And I feel like I kept talking about that on the show, but I never put any oomph behind it. So yeah, that's a little
Yeah.
oomph behind it. Man. A bunch of stories about that. Even whoever wasn't first to take a shower had to sit on the floor. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't touch mom anything, bro. You couldn't touch
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sofa. You couldn't go in the kitchen and get nothing to drink. Like because we had dirt on our hands. So yeah, I
Yeah.
remember
I
that.
feel it.
I remember that like every single day, RC, for sure, bro.
That's funny.
But transition to RC. So now let's transition to a little bit about capping. You are. I think I want to take a second just to give you your flowers because I always like to do story time with Chris doing these behind the capper with your favorite behind the curtain with your favorite capper series as well. And me and RC kind of ran into each other. I like to connect the dots with people. RC was on Jay's show, Jay Money. Shout out to the legend, the GOAT himself.
Yeah.
Was on Jay's show, and I loved your breakdown. I loved your analysis. You had some crazy, crazy stats. And I have no idea what it was at the time, but I remember reaching out to you like, yo, I have no idea where you found this information. Like where did you how did you figure this out? And I know I've joked about it before, like, how well the Jazz play when Donovan Mitchell clips his toenails or something like
I
something
remember that.
like that,
Hey,
right?
that's funny because what you just said is probably what you told me
Bruh,
last time when we first started talking. That's the same
I,
example,
I remember,
similar
but it,
example.
it was something so crazy though. I see. I was like, yo, I cannot find this data anyway, and I'm a data guru too. I like to find as much support behind whatever it is that whatever play it is. I want to find like, me, you and Finesse always talk about this in the chat, like just having 17 pages of facts behind why we want this play, right? Taking the emotion out of betting and making it all statistical, making it all eye test, right?
Mhm.
So I reached out to RC and was like, yo, where did you find this information? And I just remember you sharing information and sharing resources with me. You called me up to speed, and I from that day forward, I took that information that you shared with me and added it to my capping style. Whatever it is that you gave me, I made sure I added that. At this rate, I didn't even know like what percentage you were hitting at. Then I was hosting the spaces, of course, during last basketball season. You would pop in. I always wanted to give you the floor because your angles were sharp, because you were winning at a really successful rate. And like I mentioned in the very beginning, I'm somebody that loves to give people their flowers if they're doing good work. But also, I'm somebody who is always open-minded, like I mentioned at the beginning. And if you bring something to the table, RC, that I don't, that I think that can make me more effective, I'm always going to at least listen. When I did the show with Jay a couple of weeks ago, we talked about always being open-minded and learning, whether it's from people doing things the right way and you're like, oh, you know what? I need to incorporate what RC is doing because this is helpful.
Yeah.
Or somebody's doing something totally wrong, and they're maybe it's an emotional play, and they're like, this team can't lose 2 games in a row because they never lose, whatever the case might be, and you don't want to use that. And you say, you know what? I got to take that out of my cap style because I'm not going that way. So that's connecting the dots. We've grown. I've never met RC in person, but we've grown. Our relationship is, I think, really really tight.
Mhm.
We host the chalkboard together as well, which I'm really really happy about. And I think a lot of people who are in the chalkboard would think that that's extremely successful as well. Um, but take us behind the curtain a little bit, RC. I was saying all that to get to this. When it comes to capping sports, you've been doing it a lot longer than I have.
Mhm.
I talked about it in your bio when I read your bio. 2007, you capped so many sports, RC. How I don't even know where I want to start, but I know it's a couple questions I want to ask you
Yeah.
specifically about what got you started. Talk to me about that. Like, what inspired you to be like, you know what? I want to handicap sports because, like you said, you don't put a lot of time in. A lot. You don't lost countless hours of sleep, of time with your family, whatever the case might be. Especially when you were trying to do the multitask and work a full job, which
Mhm.
it sounds like you were very successful at as well before you decided to give up your job, but to bet on yourself in a way that you did. Talk to me a little bit about that, RC. Like, what inspires you to say, you know what, I'm about to start capping sports, and take me through the journey? Because not just like I want to cap sports full time, but talk to me about like the journey, like as far as you can remember. Take the people back.
Yeah, I was talking to you like a little bit before the show. Going back to even middle school, I was into sport. Into sports data itself, right? Like fantasy sports. I was playing Yahoo Fantasy Sports when I was like in seventh grade. Like nobody was doing that shit at our age, at that time. You know what I mean? Like people, they didn't have all the tools and analytics that they have now, but everything was like just knowledge of understanding the game and all that stuff. In playing basketball, playing sports, and all that stuff helped out, growing up, through an era where you didn't do nothing else but breathe and play sports. You understand the game, you understand the psychology of it, especially if you played organized ball. And then you get into a space where I was being coached by the right people. I had really dope coaches growing up. They taught you not only just sports but life in general, and you take all these things that you learn and incorporate it into your everyday life, right? And then going up to past high school, I started coaching some kids for a few years, right? Like took a senior group to a championship as well. I was an assistant coach on that team, but back then we only had like three coaches total, so we were very on hands with those guys, with the kids. And then going past that, you had to work, have a work for everyday life. I was with my girl since high school, since senior year, right? Ended up getting married to her and all that stuff. So we've been together for a long time, and when we were that young, and you're together with that person, and you kind of know where you want to go in life, you're gonna prepare for shit. And for me, I got into sports betting because of a friend of mine. He had a bookie. Nothing's legal back then, right? I had a bookie he hooked me up with, and then I was like, yo, I can do this. And I didn't go to college. I didn't finish college. I didn't have a degree. So my trajectory as far as like making money was going nowhere. You know what I mean? And I was like, I want to marry this girl. I want to have a family, but I can't do it with this job. You know what I mean? So I was working at a grocery store. Then I moved it. I did like a program to be a pharmacy technician for like a year. But I didn't finish college, so I didn't have like a bachelor's or even associate's degree or anything like that. So I was a pharmacy technician, and back then we didn't make a lot of money. Um, and as I was going through that phase where I needed to know where we were going, I started sports betting, and I was losing in the beginning, and I was like, man, this is stupid. Like I'm making money to lose money, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And then you would think, knowing sports, coaching, playing, that you would be able to do this, but it's a total different aspect of the game itself. And I continued losing until, I don't know, like a few years later. And then I found like data, the SDQL stuff. I didn't have no technical background, and I was like, all right, this is some cool stuff. This is gonna help me win. I was like reading books, googling everything, and the best thing that I found was the SDQL stuff. So I continued rocking with it, and then I started to learn the SDQL. I actually learned that technical aspect. It's not even a real language. SEQ is not a real data language. But I took that and said, put it on my resume, and I was like, yo, I know a technical language. And then so I put that on my resume, and I ended up getting a job as like an administrator doing like technical work in pharmacy. So then I became better at that because I was learning on the job. That made me a better capper because that gave me the skill set to do more like advanced stuff with the SDQL, right? And then I combined that with the coaching piece of it, and then just really it's really just taking all the L's and learning from it. You know what I mean? And then at that point, when I really took it seriously, is when I found out I was gonna be a dad. I was like, yo, I gotta make more money, right? So, and then at that point, I was like, all right, every night, dude, like every night, I wouldn't go to sleep until like 2 o'clock. I'm building systems, trying to learn what all these queries in SQL content means and stuff. And then what happened at that point, I was like, oh shit, I'm winning. I'm winning. All right. So then I went on Reddit because I was like Googling all these things. And then I seen a whole bunch of stuff on Reddit. So I went on Reddit. I started posting my plays on there. And it was college football. Bro, I went on like a 23-0 run in a 2 week span. And everything was posted before each game, right? Because like back then everyone was like, you can't post it after the play, after the game is done. And so 2 weeks, and I came out of nowhere. Nobody knew who I was. I just started posting, and they were like, "What the fuck is going on?" And and then I don't know what happened, but people started messaging me, and they're like, "You should go on Twitter." I was like, I'd never had Twitter, and then I was like, "What the fuck is Twitter?" So I went on, and they were like, "Yeah, you could sell your picks, blah blah blah." I was like, all right, started a Twitter. I was like, yo, I'm hella good. Like I went 23-0 a few weeks ago. Buy my picks, right? People went from Reddit to Twitter and bought that shit. I went on like a O and like 20. I literally lost everything that I won. And I was like, oh fuck. Like I feel so bad. And the thing about that, it humbled me a lot. And at that point, I went to doing free stuff. I was like, man, this is stupid. That's a lot of pressure. I lost hella people money. I was about to break down. It was a lot of depression at that point because you already know how I am based off of our relationship, just talking to each other. I felt bad, dude. It's an emotional roller coaster that I lost people money, knowing how much they bet, how much they paid for my service. And this was all before like a lot of the stuff that we see now, the selling picks and all that. But it was tough. It was a tough period for me, and but I think I wouldn't be where I am without that experience. You know what I mean? I learned a whole bunch of shit. I learned a whole bunch of shit from the psychological piece of it. My mental got hella stronger. My capping got a lot more stronger as well. Um, bro, like a lot of the things that I've gone through in the past 5 years, whatever it is, since Twitter and Reddit, the all the bad stuff, I wouldn't be here without it. And that's my biggest piece is you gotta learn from the L's and the big L's that came in the beginning. Um, uh, shit, that's what I needed.
Yo, that is powerful, RC. It's so crazy, man. When I hear people talk about like what inspired them, I think the common trend is you have to go through something to get you where you are, and your journey is always what makes you who you are, right? It's why I can't think like you because my life isn't like yours. I haven't been through what you've been through, right? When you're
Yeah,
talking like to the public, right? And that man, that's crazy. I didn't know, most of that myself, even though
yeah,
me and you talk on like a daily basis. So,
yeah,
man, that's powerful, dude. That's really, really powerful. And I hope the person that's listening to this that wants to, become a full time capper or, just want to take it more seriously, understand the dedication to the craft that's needed, right?
yeah.
You need hours, weeks and months and years before you're really really good at this. So
Mhm.
I know you had told me about like the what brought you from Reddit to Twitter, but I don't think you ever told me about the things that happen backwards. So for the people who don't know, if you don't follow RC, which is crazy that you don't, you probably should immediately at YouCapper on Twitter. You do have paid picks on Sports Memo, but you give out so many free plays all the time, from
Mhm.
the less cap aspect of not even just like giving out the free play, but let me show you how I got to the end solution of wanting to take this play, right? Let me show you
Mhm.
all of the support that I have for this. Let me show you how big of an edge I have. And if you don't want to take it, that's fine. But I'm gonna take it. And a lot of people have been taking it, and you've educated so many people along the way, I see. So I think, like you said, everything that you experienced probably led to what you're talking about now. The Less Cap show that you do daily, like you said, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Pacific time. But man, that story is powerful, RC. I had no idea, bro. I'm gonna end up. I know I'm not gonna watch this right now, but I know I'm gonna end up watching it a couple times
Yeah.
and going back through it for sure. That's powerful,
Real
RC. I
real
appreciate you
quick
sharing
too
that.
though,
Yeah,
just to add on to that, the biggest thing that I want people to take away from that is if there's a purpose to why you want to cap or why you want to be successful at capping. You got to use that as your motivation. My motivation was my family. I knew I was about to have a kid, and I knew that I didn't want them to have the life that I had when I was younger, right? And that's all the motivation you need. If you can find something that can push you to be willing to make those sacrifices, those hours, the dedication, and all that stuff, bro, that's gonna take you far. And it doesn't even have to be in capping. It could be whatever you want. But if you just come out of nowhere and just be like, I want this for money, that's not what it is, really, right?
yeah. That's damn. That's another gem. I see. That's another gem. And I know we talked about that, just a tad bit before, but man, that's a gem for sure. You gotta find a purpose behind your passion. It can't just be like you said. It can't just be about the money for sure. Because like we talked about, the wins are gonna come, and some days you're gonna have bad days, no matter what. You know what I mean? Like we talked about that too, and we both had our share of bad beats.
Sure.
Um, all right, so you cap a lot of sports, man. I want to get into some of those, but specifically, I want to talk about the markets, right? Because you play a lot of sides, you play a lot of totals. You've introduced me to a lot of money on these unders in baseball for sure. Um, so talk to the people a little bit about why that selection. I see, like why. I know a lot of a lot of cappers who've been capping for 5 years, 10 years, or even longer. They've capped totals or they've capped sides for a really long time or spreads. Because that was the original way. You had to pick who you thought was going to win, and whether
Yep.
you thought it was going to win by this amount. But talk to the people a little bit about why you focus on that. I see, because you are size and a totals guy, and good
Yeah,
at both.
and yeah,
Damn
I
good
mean,
at
I focus on both. It's really just the research that I put in. The amount of time and effort that I looked into how to bet these types of markets, right? The sides and the totals. It's the reason why I don't really mess with like I trust the research that people do when they do their nerfies, their parlays, all their prop bets and stuff like that. When I hear them speak, I know they did their due diligence and what they in their market, their specific market. And for me, I did all my research and all my time into sides and totals. And for me to have to learn something else takes a lot of time and effort. It already took me how many years to really just be able to be successful at what I'm doing now. And if I could continue doing that, I don't want to add anything to my plate that I don't have to already. We already talked about time, with our family and our kids. I don't want to add that extra time when I don't really need it. If I'm successful being on the sides and the totals and on the sports that I'm already betting with, I just want to focus on that. I don't need to get complicated with it. If I'm being successful as far as like bringing income in for me and my family at this rate, I'm not trying to be greedy. There's no point really. You just got to be comfortable where you're at, and if you're happy with it, that's what you roll with.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying in your own lane. I know I asked Jay that question, and Jay said, "I don't." He said, I don't even got a signal light. Like, no need for me to get over. I'm staying in
Yeah.
this lane that I'm in." So I love that answer. I see. I love that, man. And that was your version. I think you and Jay kind of answered that question very similarly, but definitely a really really good answer. I see for sure, man. What about inspiration though? I see. You talked about a little bit about your wife. You wanted to marry her. You want knowing that I need more money in order to live the lifestyle that I want to, and then
Mhm.
also your son, probably your oldest son, because he was
Yeah.
the firstborn, right? But
Yep.
as far as like inspiration outside of those two, are there like cappers that inspired you, like from the beginning? I know it's like it's inspirational cappers that you look up to now within the space, but as far as like other people RC, like in the very beginning, you mentioned your buddy, your homeboy, that had a bookie, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that like talk about like in the beginning, like what inspired you, or not what inspired you, but who inspired you? Like, is there any inspiration, no person that you would say, you know what, if they wouldn't have done this, then I wouldn't have done this.
First off, it's Ski Profit. Um, I think when I first started following him and watching his shows back in the day, he probably had like less than 1,000 followers, maybe 1,000 followers,
Wow, that's
possibly.
crazy.
He's
Cause
around
Ski
like he's
40,
probably
Ski at
around
40, I
40,000.
think
Yeah,
right now. Yeah.
yeah. So I was probably one of his. I wouldn't say his first follower. I just want to say like definitely around 1,000 is when I first started following him, and I saw his trajectory of where he was going. He wasn't on Wager Talk yet at the time, and looking back at where he was going, and for me, I like to look forward, right? I like to look five years ahead, whatever it might be, just like just planning ahead, really trying to get ahead of what's going on. And I saw where Ski was going, maybe even before he did, to be honest. And I was like, all right, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to be in this space. And knowing that I could possibly do this full time in the future, that's where I need to be. So and then I also knew about Ralph Michaels, who's also on Wager Talk. He was a very one of the big SDQL people that I followed as well during that time. He still does a lot of SDQL stuff here now on his Twitter. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but Ralph Michaels found my work because I would post stuff like how I do now sometimes, right? Like the trends and the queries and all that stuff. I would post screenshots and be like, all right, this team is blah blah blah, or whatever. And Ralph Michaels somehow caught wind of it. I think he might have retweeted it or something. And I was like, oh, yo, thank you. Like I'm a big fan of your work, blah blah blah, right? And then and I asked him about Ski, and I was like, yo, I know Ski's on Wager Talk now. Like, how do I get to where he's at? And he was like, oh, yeah, I don't think you can go to Wager Talk yet. Like you're still a newbie or whatever. You got to go to Sports Memo. And then so um, him and Ralph Michaels, I mean, just long story short, him and Ralph Michaels, Ski and Ralph Michaels were probably the first two people that really inspired me to get to where I'm at today. Ralph was like, yo, hit up Johnny, who's the COO of Wager Talk, and email him and say, Ralph sent you. I was like, all right, cool. So I hit up Johnny. I was like, hey, Ralph said that blah, blah, blah. He's like, all right, we're trying to do this was just a couple years ago. He was like, we're trying to do a overhaul of Sports Memo. We want all of these new faces. We're going to run it like how we do Wager Talk. And, we're going to grow from the ground up, grow from the ground up again. And he was like, we'll have you on. And then, that's pretty much how it started with Sports Memo. My goal is still to follow in Ski's footsteps and get to Wager Talk. And one day, hopefully I can get there.
Yeah, that's crazy. Right? See, I knew that Ski was an inspiration for you for sure, but I didn't know that it was to that level, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And Ski is somebody that's man, it's so many good things you can say about Ski, but I love that Ski is like, so like when I think about Ski, I just think about like how he's so strict to his business, right? Like he's not here for the drama. He's not even in it to argue with you. You can have your angle and he can have his angle, and he's like, all right, cool.
Exactly.
Like, you got your support for yours, but I'm still playing mine because I did my due diligence, and this is what what I like and what I envision. So happening. So that's dope. That's dope, RC.
I think the biggest thing though is because and not to put like a racial or color thing to it, but there was not a lot of people of color in this space a few years ago. And the people that weren't getting their flowers. You know what I mean? And to me, I think Ski was moving into this space with Wager Talk and them continuing Wager Talk being a growing company in sports betting. Like that meant a lot to me because I want to be a representative of people of color as well.
Absolutely.
And to me, for us to be able to represent our people in the space and in Wager Talk in Sports Memo, I think that's really important. And now I see, man, I love it. I love what I'm seeing on Twitter because everybody is showing up with spaces and all that stuff. and they're smart as hell, and they need their angles in their thought process and all that stuff out there. Because like I said, I don't want to get too deep into like racial or color type stuff, but we needed that representation, and he was a big piece of. That's another big piece of why I was in it.
Yeah, for sure. It's always cool, RC, when you can see somebody doing something that looks like you, that you connect
Yeah,
with well.
it's a
You know what I
normalized
mean?
person. Yeah,
Yeah, just normalizing it for sure. And they're like, yo, they can do it and we can too. You know what I mean? Like everybody else can do it, and so can we if we get the tools, if we get the time, if we start to dedicate ourselves towards it. And Ski's a pioneer for a lot of the people of color for sure.
yeah,
I know for sure that based on conversations that I've had, people just look up to Ski. You know what I mean? He's
yeah.
doing what a lot of us want to do for sure
Hmm.
out in Vegas, hitting on baseball left and right, and we
Yeah,
know what
he
he
quit
does
it.
at
He
back
quit his job. He quit his job, moved to Vegas, did all that. Man, that's betting on yourself. That's betting on yourself.
for sure.
Hundred
Yes,
percent. Yeah,
Ski somebody I got to get on the show. I got to get Ski on the show. We just chopped
you
it up
have to.
earlier. Yeah, Ski got to
Yeah.
get on the show. I had to reach out to Ski. Transitioning a little bit, RC. What about long term goals? When you think about capping, right, and you think about sports betting in general, you are someone that's quit your job, and you always talk about looking for like into the future. You posted something yesterday about the future, right? And you have so many like organic ideas. I think talk
Yeah.
to the people a little bit about what you envision, um, just your future looking like. Like, what do you want to do with sports betting? You're already hitting at a really high rate. You have a bunch of clients. You have a highly successful show that's probably just at the at the groundbreaking part. But I know you're getting more followers, you're getting more people tuning in, and it's a downtime because a lot of people aren't betting baseball. But I see the big things that's coming. I see. But what do you see for yourself? Like, what do you want to do with sports betting?
Yeah, I think with this is just continue growing in the way that I have been organically, right? Like you mentioned, that's really the key way to go is growing organically, not really force feeding people to say, "Hey, follow me, do this, do that." That's not how we roll, in my opinion. I think based off conversation with me and you, we're pretty similar in that sense.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think as far as goals go, I think I went to the meet and greet, the Sports Memo Wager Talk meet and greet earlier this year, and having conversations with them. And my career goal is to move over to Wager Talk at some point, and be able to do this full time. The last maybe 5 months now has helped that, because I'm now more focused on the capping process, and I feel like for me, I've been able to, especially in the last couple months or so, now that I found a groove, I've been a lot more successful, even more so than I have before, and that's also been super helpful. And at some point, we grew up with ESPN all day, sports all day. Wake up, go to school. Before going to school, ESPN's on. Come back home, ESPN's on.
Da-da-da,
ESPN's on.
da-da-da,
Exactly,
ESPN
bro.
Sports
Like
Center.
something like that, in a sense where I would love to be on TV, bro. That'd be fucking dope. It would be so dope. Like whether it's ESPN or any other type of channel, that would be sort of like a bucket list type of thing, and not a need to have, sort of like a want to have. You know what I mean? Like I just want to say I did it once. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, I see. I mean, why
Yeah,
wouldn't we, right? Like you provide sports content via video all day long. Like you do a show five
yeah,
days a week, and that's just your show. Then you do
yeah,
you've appeared on you did plenty of shows with Jay. Like you said, you do sports memo shows all the time. You're on other
yeah,
shows, so why not? Like why not? Shoot for the moon anyway. So I
yeah,
absolutely love that. I know Wham was on OG Wham was on, and he talked about getting on TV as well.
yeah,
Somebody else that's doing a lot, pub sports radio, doing a lot of shows as well. So I love that answer. I could definitely see both of you guys doing that as well, and it helps that you guys are both good too at picks,
yeah,
right? So people are tuning in. Nobody's going to pay attention, or nobody's going to watch if you're not giving out
yeah.
good content. So and winning plays. So I love that. I love that answer. This is a question, RC, that I ask a lot of my guests, but I'm interested, really, really curious to know your answer. What is your favorite sport to cap? And the reason why I'm so interested in your answer is because you cap so many different sports at such a high clip, right?
Yeah.
Tell it, like, talk to the people about the sports that you cap, and then tell people which one is your favorite and why.
Man, it's gotta be NBA. There's no way that it isn't. Like everybody loves the NBA, everyone loves basketball for those who are capping. Um, I think it's just such a a sport that we all connect with because we all grew up playing it was the most I would say it was the most um played sport growing up because it was accessible, right? You just needed a basketball and a hoop. You don't need a whole field, baseball bat, a pitcher. You didn't need 9 people. You could literally go to a court and shoot around by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we all connected with growing up, and so that's why we had that connection to the NBA and basketball in general. So for me, it's my favorite sport to play, and that's probably a reason why it's a favorite sport to cap, and also the conversations that we have with people, it gets lively and it's fun, and you know what I mean, and to be able to have those types of conversation at a high level with the people that we have in our circle, those are amazing conversations to have, and to me, that's the reason why I love capping the NBA the most. It's just fun. It's just a sport that we all connect with, and it's fun.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. See, I don't think I ever thought about it. Like, I think I thought about it the way you thought about it, but not as in depth as you've thought about it. Because somebody asked me that question, I probably would have said a lot of what you said, but I know a couple of those with nuggets that I probably would have left out. Like that connection piece is like you said, is next level for sure. But I see, I can't. I'm not gonna let you get away with this. Tell the people what sports you cap. Like go through the list of how many sports you cap.
I mean, it don't see it seems like a lot, but it's really just all the major sports, all the major U.S. sports, right? You got MLB, NBA, NFL. Then you got the college side of it, right? College football, college basketball. We got the WNBA. So it does seem like a lot, but I also,
I was gonna
and
say I was gonna let you finish. We're not gonna downplay like that's
but
not like over 3,000 teams.
so this is one thing that is new this season to sports memo for me is I never really gave out my soccer plays. It was something that I capped and bet on my own personal time, because really it used to be just all numbers, right? And then one of my biggest hobbies is collecting sports cards the last few years, and I got into collecting soccer cards. So for me to understand the value of some of these cards, I needed to know the teams, needed to know the players and how they did. And so outside of a numbers perspective and trends, I had to understand the teams and the players, and that got me more connected to soccer and made me and allowed me to be more knowledgeable with soccer in general. And that's where I could be like, all right, I'm not just gonna give out picks based off of a system or a trend. Now I can actually speak the language. Like I can be like, all right, they're gonna score because Barcelona has Fati and all these guys. I mean, or Liverpool is struggling because of X Y Z. So this now I can't just be like, this is my play, bam bam. I want to teach like Capper University is all about teaching people. I never want to put out a play there without a logical explanation. And if I can't do that, I'm not going to be giving that stuff to people. Um, that's my thought process. But yeah, those are the sports that I cap.
Yeah, there's a lot, RC. It's impressive, bro. It's definitely impressive. So shout out to the system, shout out to the SDQL, shout out to the time that you put in to it before, because it's impossible to watch every single game. It's impossible to watch every single team, especially when you get into like the college aspect of it, because there's so many
Yeah.
teams in the Big 10, ACC, Big 12, yada yada yada. So
Mhm.
and then WNBA is a different version than the NBA, and then
Yeah.
NCAA. So basketball. So yeah, it's a lot, RC, and
Yeah.
I
And
think that's
and every just to add to that, every sport is different too. Like the way that I cap it, you know what I mean? Like I don't have systems for WNBA. That's all foundational capping. Some trends that I use to back stuff up, but it's more foundational than it is with the NBA or MLB. You're really just understanding the game of basketball itself and the motivation behind it. And I won't be like, if I talk about trends in WNBA, is just to support the play, but not the major piece to make me play that, do that bet. Same thing with soccer. There's a lot of aspects to that that's a lot different, as far as systems. it's really how you set up your capping process and your workflow that gives you the opportunity to save some time, especially looking at all this college basketball, college football, all those damn games every week. There's no way that you cap every single game, so you're gonna have to have a process to, or even just like basically a process to limit what you're looking at so that you don't get all jacked up, as far as playing too many games or getting confused with numbers and teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I see. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's gonna be somebody else that's gonna watch this. Similar to me, my first year capping baseball was this year, and yeah, I was one of those people that was trying to look at every single game, and try to find a spot when it's not necessary. And you have to have the time to do it too. So I was waking up super early trying to get this stuff done after lines have came out, and we have the extra resources on SPO so yeah, definitely for sure. I see. Transition. I see. What about can you think of a team or a player over the course of like a specific time frame, maybe like last year, maybe this year, maybe 5 years ago, that like just got hot and made you a really lot of money? Can you think of a team or a player?
I want to say this past NBA season, it's probably either I would say the Grizzlies.
The
I think it
Grizzlies.
was the Grizzlies. They were on like a 20 something and two ATS run, and I was backing that from the, I would say like almost the start, um, because we were looking at trends and data and all that stuff, and I was like, all right, they're like 7-1 at this spot. All right, let's do it. Kept coming up, and then I was like, all right, well shoot, let's just keep going. And there's a point where they hit like 10 in a row. I don't know what the number was, but yeah, Grizzlies, if I remember correctly, was probably the top team that I was betting on that was cashing a lot.
Just cashing tickets, bro. I
Yeah,
know. I know the spaces was jumping with the Grizzlies. We were taking
yeah.
the Grizzlies first quarter team
First
total
quarter, there it was.
over.
Yeah,
First half, man, we were cashing out.
yeah,
They were getting like 35 points in the lobby, sitting at like 29 and a half,
yeah.
30 and a half. I think the spaces actually grew to organically to what they were because we were just hitting at such a high rate. And I was, running a lot of numbers, not even SDQL at that time, but I was running a
Hmm.
lot of numbers and finding trends and a lot of data, a lot of statistical data to back that for sure. I see. So yeah, that's exactly what it was. Bro. Shout out to the Grizzlies, boy. They made us a lot of money for sure, for sure. Hopefully they do it again this year because I don't got no problem backing them again if they're gonna do what they did last year.
Yeah,
Um, transition to RC. We got a little less than 10 minutes left, but I don't want to keep you too long. But from a frustration point, RC, what would you say is the most frustrating thing about gambling in your eyes? Like about sports betting, it could be Twitter related, it could be non-Twitter
hmm.
related, it could be personal. What grinds your gears and gets you upset the most?
Man, to be honest, there's a lot. Especially in the beginning when you first start in Twitter, because when you're capping and betting on your own with nobody else around, it don't matter. You lose, you come back the next day and you're just chilling, right? You're trying to win again. But when you put yourself out there, like on Twitter, and you lose, one thing that sucks is people telling you lost. Like, bruh, what?
I know
Like
already.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure I
yeah,
know I lost. My bank account
right.
told me that I lost. Like you don't have to keep telling me that. But I think in the beginning, sort of that example in the beginning when I was talking about when I went from Reddit to Twitter, and I went out and sold my picks, and I lost hella in the beginning. I think when people was on me at that point and was like, "Yo, man, I paid for this shit. Like you're losing." Like, yeah, duh. You know what I mean? Like, I think that actually made me a lot. Like I talked about it, it made me a lot stronger mentally because now when people say that, it doesn't affect me like it did before, and I can continue my capping process, right? Like we talked, like on Twitter, I went 0-6 one day, and I put that out there. I was like, "Yo, I don't talk about my wins a lot, but I'll talk about my losses." I went 0-6. The following maybe like 2 weeks went on like a, I don't know. I have it up here on Twitter somewhere, but I had like three sweeps in a row, like 5-0 or some shit like that. And then I think in that 2 week span, I lost like six games on the trends. And to me too. And Jay got me on this on the not, what is that word, like um I forgot what word he uses, but like you talk about something and superstition, right? Sorry, it was blanking out. But he talked about superstition a lot, and people who think that I don't bet my trends, the reason why it says like trends not bets, it's at this point it's superstition. I'm not moving that shit because I continue winning. It's not going away anytime soon. But yeah, so Jay got me on the superstition stuff. I'm not changing what my trends say.
I
Trends
like it,
not
RC.
bets.
It's gotta stay that way, bro. It's gotta
Yeah,
stay that way. For the people who don't know, RC posts daily MLB. Well, right now it's MLB daily MLB trends. It's typically at least three, sometimes four, sometimes five
yeah,
trends. Really strong trends. So most of them are 7-1 to 9-1. Sometimes
yeah.
even more so than that, based on the spot that they're in. And they've been successful.
Yeah.
If you don't know, just go check out his page, and you can go back and do the research yourself. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't just throw trend. Like, there's people who throw trends out there who don't look at the actual line, and then also they don't do the due diligence and look on the other side to make sure that the trend that actually might win. Because you can throw a 20-0 trend out there, the next game they lose if you're just throwing trends out there without actually doing the work. Like, I don't just put trends out there that I think are gonna that I don't think are gonna win. Let's just put it at that.
Absolutely, RC. So now it's lesson turn. Lesson turn. It's lesson time, RC. What's the biggest lesson you feel like you've learned about yourself since you've been handicapping?
Um, about myself, it's just damn, that's a deep ass question, Chris.
Or you can phrase it like this. What have you learned? What have you learned about yourself as a better, if anything?
Man, I think it's just the emotional aspect of it. You know what I mean? I think the emotional aspect of sports betting, you got to take that out of there. You can't be a fan and bet at the same time because it's just going to cloud your decision making. Um, mentally, you can't get affected by what people say or what people are doing outside of what you can control. You really just gotta. You talked about it here. Stay in your own lane. You know what I mean? As long as you focus on what you're doing, um, adapting to the game itself by what you're seeing, in gambling in general, in sports betting in general. That to me is the most important piece. Is really the whole mental aspect of it. Uh, you got to be on point. You can't get sidetracked. You can't get affected by what people say. Um, that I think that's the most important thing, and that's why kind of gambling Twitter kind of gets toxic, is because they people get to other people because they take things personally, and it really is just to me a mental thing.
Yeah, honestly, that's so man, that's so dope. Because if you just join gambling Twitter and you think that the psychological part isn't an aspect, then you're dead wrong for sure. And it reminds me a lot. Just listening to you talk, RC, it reminds me a lot of the athlete, right? Like,
Yeah,
with especially we talk about the zigzag a lot in the NBA playoffs, and that that's applicable in different sports as well, other sports as well. But like, that athlete can't be just so caught up in the moment that they don't know how to respond, right? Like, it's a lot of well, maybe this guy should be traded or whatever the case might be, and then they go
yeah,
out and have a good game the next game, and then that's kind of blown all up, right? Like,
yeah,
nobody's talking about that again. So the psychological aspect is something that's definitely understated. I think it's
hmm,
underrated. Having a good psyche in general, because you're gonna have those good days no matter what trends you post. Like, you're gonna have a bad day, and
yeah.
you got to continue to trust your process and do your work and bounce back for sure. Man, this has been fire. See, we can keep going, bro. We can
I
definitely keep
swear,
going.
man, we can go like 3 hours. I could talk
Hey, we
about
might
hella stuff.
we might have to do a part two. I see. We might have to do a part
I
two,
would
man.
love to, man. I would love to. I
Yeah,
got so much shit in my brain that I want to
bro.
say.
We're gonna have to go again. Then we're gonna definitely have to go again. But right now, I wanna thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank RC for his time, of course. Again, the easiest way to reach my guy is on his Twitter at YouCapper. He's a part of Sports Memo. He has the chalkboard that I'm partnered with as well. That's free. The link will be posted below. He also is just a really good, genuine guy that's extremely transparent. So I want to thank RC for his time today again. Be sure to give him a follow at YouCapper on Twitter. Be sure to check out the other episodes as well of Behind the Curtain with your favorite capper. DM me if you think that your favorite capper would want to be on. I can be reached at Crispy Capping. That's two P's and two N's on Twitter. And then that's really all I got for you guys, man. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you can. It'll be more videos coming real soon. Let's continue to keep educating ourselves, getting sharper with our picks, growing and smashing the books. Until next time, good luck on all your MLB bets right now. I'm out.